Tonight, our goal is to try and crack a riddle that I know a lot of people here have spent sleepless nights over. Let's start with a quick instant poll. Yes or no? The advertising industry has at last found the smart, effective way to tap into all those hours being spent online. Now, there are nuances here, but you have to pick one. You have to pick one. Who votes yes? Who votes no? All right, 'tis as I feared. I've been looking at the numbers. I wanted to try and find how the market effectively valued human attention, which is the currency we all care so much about. So I looked at the usual suspects, the advertising research from Forrester, Morgan Stanley, Yankee Group, Nielsen, and so forth, and calculated basically the amount of value of an hour of attention across the different media. The numbers that we looked at from all these different research organizations, they actually vary quite a bit. So you have to aggregate them together a bit in the best possible way that I could. But what I was concerned about was to try and figure, what is the value that a media owner can get from 1 hour of time? And this is what I found out. On TV, it's about a quarter, 20 to 25 cents. Obviously for the Super Bowl, it'd be a lot higher, but that's the average amount that you can get. In print, it's higher. It's a dollar at least. I guess the demographics are better, maybe the attention is more focused. The reason for the problems in print industries is not so much the amount they're getting per hour, it's because the number of hours spent reading has really fallen. Now, what do you think the number is online? An hour of attention online. Any guesses?
9 cents?
It's less than a dime. It's less than a dime. Brilliant. And of that, Google probably gets 3 to 4 cents. Now look, these numbers are preposterous. I mean, we all know that attention is one of the great scarce resources that are out there. It's the resource from which every other piece of economic activity stems. Its value has to be rising overall. It has to be. I can't accept that the attention of a lean-back TV couch potato armed with a TiVo is dramatically more than that of a lean-forward engaged web user, right? Or that the multimedia, personalizable, clickable online experience is worth 1/10 of the same time reading print. This makes no sense, but that's what the market is telling us, which means that those of you who raised your hands to say no were right. We haven't figured it out. We don't know how to tap into those huge number of online hours. And this is a problem because people are moving online rapidly. Those hours are increasing. If we can't figure this out, the whole marketing enterprise, frankly, is in trouble. So I think we're a bit lost. And this is the conversation we have among us all the time, right? That, what do we do about this? Well, when you're lost, traditionally, there are two technologies that might be of use. The first one we call a map. And all of us would absolutely love to have a map that shows us a smart way to a better, prosperous, successful media future with online advertising glowing bright orange because of how wonderful it is. Tragically, this map does not exist. The future hasn't been mapped. If you ever want a laugh, take a look at your company's 5-year plan that was written 5 years ago. Not so much a map, more a fantasy. So this is why all my life I've tried to rely on the other technology for when you're lost. It's called a compass. And now the force that my compass responds to is passion. Not so much mine, other people's. So let's think about this. In media, we are obsessed with measuring quantity of attention. Ratings, circulation, page views, eyeball hours. We have those numbers all the time, right? We're also obsessed with the demographic measurements, the who of attention. We love the rich 30-year-olds, the poor 70-year-olds, kind of not so much, but we do all that measuring. What we don't look at so much, because it's actually really hard to measure, is the third axis of attention, which is its intensity. Now this is a shame, because this is actually the most important of them all. The difference between focused, high engagement medium and low attention, take it or leave it media isn't just 20 or 40%. It can be orders of magnitude difference. Now when attention becomes intense, that is what we call passion. And so for all my media life, I have been interested in trying to find media built on passion. And if you'll indulge me, I'd like to take a couple of minutes to tell just some of that story, because I think it's relevant to the riddle that we're trying to solve. So, England, 1985, my living room in a little village in Somerset. I started a publishing company called Future Publishing, whose motto was indeed media with passion. Although you might not have guessed it from the magazines that we started to publish. These magazines, as my family loved to point out to me, were almost all deeply uninteresting to almost everyone. Except for those people they were actually targeted at. And to them, they were gold. I mean, they sat at the heart of these communities and engendered so much passion that we could charge high cover prices, high advertising rates. For a while, these things were, frankly, shockingly successful, until this little thing called the internet came along and sucked away that passion somewhere else. That's another story. Not always a happy one. Roll the clock forward. 1998, I went to a conference called TED for the first time, and I fell in love with it. Finally, there was a place where everyone wanted to talk crazy ideas like I did. I felt like I'd come home. And my media compass flickered into life as well. It was odd, and it wasn't noticing the quantity of attention out there. Let's see, 800 people for 4 days, once a year. That was pathetic. That was less than the lowliest of my magazines, Cross-Stitcher Monthly or whatever. But what the compass noticed was the passion. The passion was astonishing. Here were some of the world's most interesting and influential people saying things like, this conference changed my life. This is my brain spa. This is the highlight of my year, every year. And I felt it myself. Come day 3 of this conference, I was sitting there in the audience, tears pouring down my face, watching this beautiful athlete on stage, Amy Mullins, as she unscrewed her artificial legs and talked so movingly about the possibilities of her own future. And I thought, wow, I was moved personally, but I also realized that this was an incredible media asset, perhaps the most incredible media asset I'd ever encountered. Frankly, something that one might devote a life to. And to cut a long and often very painful story short, over the next 3 years, I was able to persuade the founder of TED to entrust its future to me. I left what was now a 1,000-person company, Future, came on board to do this. Now, the thing about passion that's so important is that it's a proxy for potential. And the journey over the last 10 years has been trying to unlock that potential in TED. I moved it from for-profit into a non-profit organization. I hired a truly incredible team, many of whom are here. And we set about experimenting, trying to figure out how to let out into the world the passion that was in TED and that we all knew was something really special. And one of the most significant things that happened was actually, at the time, the riskiest. We decided to start putting full lectures online for free and see what happened. And naturally, we were a little bit worried at the time that the people who were spending $6,000 to come to TED might be a little bit miffed that we were giving away the crown jewels. And we were also worried that we just looked silly that this couldn't possibly work. I mean, how could someone's attention be held for 80 minutes online on 6 square inches of computer real estate? It made no sense. Indeed, the first talks we put up weren't seen by that many people. But what knocked us out was the response that they delivered. We started seeing notes like this. This was a big surprise, seeing how engaged people got. What we were looking at here was passion. It was a passionate response, as great as any as I'd ever seen launching any piece of media. So this media compass was melting with excitement. We had no choice. We had to flip TED on its head. Instead of being a conference, it became this website devoted to sharing these talks with the world. Now, the conference was the engine, the website was the amplifier, and the mission was ideas worth spreading. And in just a few years, TED had this magical morphing from being something that touched 800 people once a year to something that touches now 500,000 people every day. And so, I guess what, 320 million TED Talks have been viewed now. And shortly, 320 million and one, because I want to show you the first a couple of minutes of one of them. Some of you will have seen this, but it's worth showing again, always. The remarkable ad man, Rory Sutherland.
This is my first time at TED. Normally, as an advertising man, I actually speak at TED Evil, which is TED's secret sister organization that pays all the bills. It's held every 2 years in Burma. And I particularly remember a really good speech by Kim Jong-il on how to get teens smoking again. But actually, it's suddenly come to me after years working in the business that what we create in advertising, which is intangible value, you might call it perceived value, you might call it badge value, subjective value, intangible value of some kind gets rather a bad rap. If you think about it, if you want to live in a world in the future where there are fewer material goods, you basically have two choices. You can either live in a world which is poorer, which people in general don't like, or you can live in a world where actually intangible value constitutes a greater part of overall value. That actually intangible value in many ways is a very, very fine substitute for using up labor or limited resources in the creation of things. Here's one example. This is a train which goes from London to Paris. The question was given to a bunch of engineers about 15 years ago, how do we make the journey to Paris better? And they came up with a very good engineering solution, which was to spend £6 billion building completely new tracks from London to the coast and knocking about 40 minutes off a 3.5-hour journey time. Now, call me Mr. Picky, I'm just an ad man, but it strikes me as a slightly unimaginative way of improving a train journey merely to make it shorter. Now, what is the hedonic opportunity cost of spending £6 billion on a load of railway tracks? Here's my naive advertising man's suggestion. What you should in fact do is employ all of the world's top male and female supermodels, pay them to walk the length of the train handing out free Chateau Petrus for the entire duration of the journey. Now, you'll still have about £3 billion left in change, and people will ask for the trains to be slowed down.
So, well, I recommend you see the rest of that talk sometime if you haven't. You'll laugh a lot. And also, you know, when your kids accuse you of shilling for cynical corporations, you can tell them, actually, no. I am building intangible value. And by the way, that's the key to a sustainable future. And by the way, I actually believe that to be true. I think you're in a heroic business and a really important one for all of our futures. But if advertising is so great, why the hell is it broken right now online? This is how I think of the online advertising experience right now. See if you can spot anything amiss. It's this relentless series of come-ons, right? Which achieve almost nothing except cluttering up the page. I mean, just once in 1,000 instances, you might get lucky. Bingo. Yes, but overall, is that really worth it? It's such an ugly picture. Now, marketers tend to respond to this by ever more imaginative ways of hijacking people's attention. You know, these clever animated ads that kind of sneak out of the page and leap at you and grab you when you're least expecting. Or my personal bête noire, pre-roll advertising. Here's how that works. Let me show you. So someone wants to watch a video, right? Something they're really excited about. They click, kazam, someone comes in, and the advertiser says, no, you have to watch my ad first. It's brilliant. You know, you've won their attention. Hurrah! There's just one teensy problem. I mean, I'm not a professional psychiatrist, but you have to question the wisdom of choosing your introductory offer to your new customers as being blind rage. You might say, you know, that's actually how it's always been, though. That's the deal. You know, on TV for years, advertising has interrupted programming. You know, what's different? Well, that was the deal, but what's different is that TV was a incoming stream of information to a passive audience. Now the audience is in control. You know, they hold the mouse, they click. And if you take the control from them, they will hate you. So what do we do? I take one clue back from my old hobbyist magazines. Believe it or not, back in those days, all of 15 years ago, readers actually loved the advertising in those magazines. It was a key part of the experience. They'd pore over the ads. They wanted to know what was coming out and what to buy. They didn't have to look at any one ad. They were in control. They could turn the page, just like now, if they didn't like it. But they spent, in aggregate, a huge amount of time on the advertising. The advertisers actually felt like key members of the community. And their advertising didn't ambush passion. It amplified it. And if I may, I'll say that again because I think it's important. They didn't ambush passion. They amplified it. Now, I think something similar happens right now at the live TED conference. We have a lot of wonderful business partners, but their sponsorships aren't based on big flashy logos and kind of smooth product pitches. I want to introduce you to Jim Hackett. He's CEO of Steelcase, who've been one of our long-standing partners. They spent a fortune at TED over the years. They had this idea to build out these simulcast areas using their furniture and their beautiful design, where people can watch the conference on a screen, casually, drinking coffee. Fantastic value add to the conference. They don't make a big song and dance over it. They just do it. People know that they do it. Jim himself comes to the conference every year. He's curious. He's engaged. He doesn't push his products on you. He wants to talk about ideas and TED and just have a real conversation. People love to sit with him, have lunch with him, and so forth. And it's no surprise that over the years, scores of people from the community have entrusted their business to Steelcase. A few years ago, I got freaked out by the prospect that Walmart wanted to come and write us a check and be partners at TED. And I thought, how can we take money from a company that will be perceived as a corporate monstrosity? Shock horror, they didn't come and say, yes, put our logo everywhere and watch us thump our chests. They came and organized a lunch, and they invited some people from the community to come and meet with them. And they said, we've got some questions. We would like to know how you can help us make our business more sustainable. This actually was amazing. This act, this approach, completely changed my opinion and several other people's in the community's opinion of Walmart. We think of them as this learning company committed to being a true global citizen, committed to improvement. So, thinking about this, I think the way I'd characterize the relationship in both these cases between the businesses and the community as authentic community members. That feels different from what we're seeing online. Could you replicate that relationship online? What would that look like? So this is the key riddle, and this is why we're here, and we think we maybe can, but we're going to need your help. This is what Ads Worth Spreading is all about. This is the initiative we're launching. What is an ad worth spreading? It's a film made by a corporation where the community that it's targeted at actually wants to watch it. In fact, they want to watch it so much that they'll tell other people in the community about it. It might be something that's hysterically funny. It might be something that's gorgeously beautiful. It might just be ingeniously clever. It might be a big multimedia production, or just a single employee talking to a camera, sharing her values and her dreams. We picture them as short as 30 seconds, as long as 5 or 6 minutes. And we are inviting you, the whole advertising community, to dream about these things, to dream what they might be, and to submit to us films over the next few months, because we are in search of the best of them. Come March, we're going to pick the 10 best and do what we can to give them some real glory. First of all, we're going to unveil them from the main stage at Long Beach, California, at our conference there. Second, we're going to give them each a page on our website that might look something like this. It looks a bit like, almost like a TED Talk page, where people can view it, comment, discuss, share with their friends. These pages will stay on the site and earn whatever viral power those ads can earn. And over time, you want to continue to invite new advertising onto the site for free just because it's good. Because when we launch this in March, for a week, we're going to suspend all of our paid advertising. All the ads on TED.com will be ads worth spreading. They'll run for free. And because we would love TED to become a place that people go, you know what? The ads there are every bit as interesting as the talks. That's the goal. And we would love this idea to leak out onto other sites and for them to pursue something similar. You know, advertising that amplifies passion instead of ambushing it. It's my little candidate for an idea worth spreading. Now, let's think a bit more about what these ads might actually look like. We've already had amazing creative on TED.com that we adore and that we know for a fact that our audience adores. Here's just a clip from one ad from Liberty Mutual that I just want to show you. So I won't show you the rest of the ad. It's worth watching. And what you should know is that numerous times on YouTube and on the website, people commented saying, you know what, that ad was actually better than the talk that preceded it, which was not a comment about the talk. It was a comment about the ad. You will all know of your own favorite examples of amazing ads on the web that have generated, you know, millions of views just because they're great. Those are all certainly candidates for ads worth spreading. And here are a couple of other directions that we think might be worth exploring. One would just look like a TED Talk, but from someone in the company. It could be the receptionist, it could be the CEO. Imagine her telling in an authentic way, just telling a story, perhaps of her childhood, of the events that helped generate her own values and her vision. Can you picture that? See, the reason it might make sense to do something like that is that it humanizes a company. There's so much cynicism out there about corporations. But you and I know that most corporations are largely full of people, you know, just like us, with their own hopes, dreams, visions, fears. If we could make them available and visible transparently to the wider world, isn't there a way that that could actually transform how a company is thought of? Right now, we're seeking to put together a team that will actually enable companies to put on their own TED-like events and perhaps create a platform for their own hidden stars. Could be a thrilling experience. Another idea, another possibility, is to try and tap into a strategy that we call radical openness. As the world interconnects, you know, the rules about what we keep a secret and what we put out on the web are changing, I think. In this world now where information can spread across to millions of people so quickly, if you're willing to risk giving away the information that you think is your deepest secret, there's a real chance, A, that you'll delight thousands, perhaps millions of people across the world, and B, that you'll get them working for you, that they will come and try and help you improve what you have. They will innovate for you. Netflix did this, for example, brilliantly with their $1 million prize to improve their recommendation algorithm. At TED, we're totally obsessed by the idea of radical openness. It's a strategy that's worked for us every time. When we started giving away those TED Talks, not only did it bring in the 300 million views, it actually increased, not decreased, the number of people who wanted to pay to come to the conference. And it actually increased the quality of the talks we were getting, because suddenly speakers were thinking, holy crap, there's a large audience out there. I could become a global star. I better put some time in. When we gave away and opened up our translation program to the world, we ended up with more than 10,000 professional-grade translations of our talks for free that have allowed TED to reach out to 70 languages and a vastly bigger audience in non-English speaking countries. And most recently, when we started giving away our TEDx brand and allowed organizers around the world to put on their own TED events without our control or oversight, suddenly in 1 year, TED moved from being an organization that had 2 annual events to one that now has pretty much 1,000 annual events. And by the way, some of them are absolutely breathtakingly, astoundingly good. It's also given us a global laboratory in the art of spreading ideas that we can learn from every day. So we're obsessed by it, and we're wondering is whether you could use this in the form of an ad worth spreading. Could you imagine the head of R&D or a CEO on screen on TED.com saying to the world, "Hello world, we're going to show you something we've never shown before. Look, this is how we make our widgets. It's really cool. Look at this. That's cool. Look at that go. Clickety-clack into that. Isn't that amazing? But wait, there's a problem. Right here, we've got a waste problem. That is bad. Not only is that costing us a fortune, it's creating a carbon footprint that we're not happy with. We're better global citizens than that. But this is a tough problem to solve. We would like the help of you, the world, in solving that problem. Would you help us?" I could be wrong, but I have a feeling that that could make an absolutely stunning ad worth spreading that would shift the perception of a corporation from perhaps being arrogant to being forward-thinking. And you never know, it might even solve your widget manufacturing problem. Our team's vision for the future of TED is that it becomes this self-fueling learning cycle. On the one hand, you've got great teachers putting out these talks, but on the other hand, you've got an amazing community that's responding and giving feedback. And this is a cycle that we want everyone to be part of, including our business partners. This isn't just for the financial support that it gives to TED. Think about this. How is the world going to get changed now? You've got governments out there kind of mired. It's incredibly hard for them to get anything done. You've got plenty of individuals who are dying to do stuff, but a lot of them don't have huge resources. And then you've got corporations organized across borders, well-resourced, set up to do stuff, to make decisions. If anyone can change the world, they can. So they need to be part of this conversation. We need to engage. So let me end with this. This is the, I guess, the aspiring philosopher in me speaking, so forgive me. But it seems to me that often in life, if you want something badly, you don't get it by pursuing it directly. If you're an aspiring musician and you want musical creativity, you don't get there by just going out and being creative all the time. It's actually the opposite. You get there by pursuing discipline, hour after hour of practice. And one day, the creativity flows. If you want love, you don't get there by pursuing it directly. There's a name for people who do that. Stalkers. If you want happiness, if you pursue it directly, you end up an addict or a hedonist or a glutton or a dilettante. No. Don't do that. Pursue generosity, pursue wisdom, pursue honor, pursue an idea that's bigger than you. And one day, happiness and/or love will tap you gently on the shoulder and whisper, "I'm here." And it seems to me that those of us who are in the business of pursuing, wanting the passionate attention of the world's online communities are in danger of falling into the same trap. I say this with love and respect, and I say this looking at myself as well as anyone else. We're in danger of becoming stalkers, of pursuing attention at any cost through whatever means, fair or foul. That strategy is going to end badly. And so the invitation is to try something different. What if instead we pursue laughter and beauty and ingenuity, radical openness? What if we pursue the ideas that could actually help shape a more beautiful future for all of us? I suspect that if we do that, we will be astounded at the amount of attention that will ultimately flow our way. Thank you.